MPs will be back in Ottawa tomorrow after a week-long break to decide whether to approve Prime Minister Mark Carney's fiscal plan. His Liberal minority government survived 2 confidence votes related to the budget already and is just two votes shy of the required 172 votes for the budget to pass. Canadians could face another election as a result of tomorrow's vote if the Liberals fail to gain support. So Tricia is looking into this story for us this morning ahead of Monday's vote. What do we need to know here?
Well, it's kind of all about getting to that 172 number to pass that budget. So the Liberals will be looking to sort of pick up a few votes from wherever that might be able to happen. We know right now the Liberals have 170 seats in that House. So that leaves them 2 votes short. And that does include Chris d'Entremont in the count. He just crossed the floor last week. He's a Nova Scotia MP. So he is expected to vote along the Liberal lines tomorrow. And then otherwise, we have the Bloc. We have heard from them that they plan to vote against the current budget. Now, that means that will be 22 noes there. And the NDP, 7 of their members say that they're still making up their minds. They have floated the idea of abstaining from the vote. So it will be interesting to see sort of where those chips fall tomorrow. Of course, we also have Elizabeth May still in the House. She is the lone Green Party representative. Now, when the budget first came out a while back, she had expressed some displeasure at it, talking about some of the high spending numbers and her concern over some of the deficit numbers. But she has also said in more recent days that she has been talking to her constituents and hearing that there really is not an appetite for another election. So it will also be interesting to see sort of where Elizabeth May does align in this final vote tomorrow, this third round of voting. And of course, then we have to talk about the Conservatives. 143 seats belong to them in the House of Commons right now. But when asked about how the Conservative Party would be voting on Friday, their leader, Pierre Poilievre, was a little non-committal. Here's what he had to say.
100% of our MPs oppose the costly Carney credit card budget that is going to drive up the cost of food, housing, and living for Canadians. What all Conservatives stand for is an affordable budget so Canadians can have an affordable life.
Now, one Conservative MP that people will be watching closely tomorrow will be Edmonton's Matt Genereux. He has announced his plans to resign from politics. No firm date has been given for that at this point, just suggested that it would be sometime in the spring. Now, rumors had sort of swirled around him prior to that announcement that he was potentially considering crossing the floor. Also, apparently there was a meeting with Matt Genereux and Mark Carney in Edmonton in recent weeks. But from where things stand right now, he has just announced he will be leaving politics in the spring. So it will be, again, interesting, though, to see where his vote will land tomorrow. Going back to the Liberals, though, House Leader Steve McKinnon was talking on Friday as well, similar to sort of what Elizabeth May and other people have been saying, that there is really no appetite for another election. Let's hear from him.
If you go to meet the folks here in Trois-Rivières or in any municipality in Canada, they'll tell you we just had an election 6 months ago. We gave Mr. Carney a mandate to execute a plan. That plan is in the budget. And instead of having an election on Boxing Day or the 28th of December, we prefer to let Mr. Carney implement his plan.
So taking just a quick look at what that plan does entail, $141 billion more spending over the next 5 years. That would be offset by a little over $50 billion in cuts and savings. That will lead to a $78 billion projected deficit this fiscal year. It also includes some cuts to the bureaucracy, other investments for infrastructures. We have heard a lot about some of those nation-building projects in recent days. So it will be definitely an interesting day on the Hill tomorrow, Marianne.
Absolutely. Interesting and very busy, that's for sure. Tricia, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And let's stay on this and bring in Jamie Gillies. He is a political scientist at St. Thomas University, joining us this morning from Fredericton. Nice to see you, Jamie.
Good morning, Marianne. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Prime Minister Mark Carney, he is in Winnipeg, of course, for Grey Cup Sunday. And this is just days after announcing the new batch of fast-track major infrastructure projects. Things were not included on that list, and that includes the Port of Churchill expansion. What do you think of the Prime Minister and this file? Were you surprised by what was announced this week?
Not terribly. I think what in the first batch and now this second batch, this new set of seven new projects, I think I'm seeing a pattern here of projects that the government feels that they can fast track and get going within a short political time frame. The results may be medium or long term, but you see that in those projects in New Brunswick, Ontario, BC, Yukon, and Nunavut, and Quebec in this last group, where I think that the balance here is things that are 20-year projects versus ones that are 5-year projects. And I think a lot of this first group, as well as the original set, fit in that category of something that they can see results and get people working fairly quickly.
What about the pushback to some of these projects? Natural gas, mines. How do you think that could impact the buy-in Prime Minister Carney is trying to get here?
Well, I think that the issue here is these are large-scale investment projects in industry and in mining. And that is, of course, offset with the climate change challenges that Canada faces. And the criticism has largely been environmental. And I think the Carney government is trying to balance this a little bit with holdovers from the Trudeau era of their environmental agenda, but also nation-building projects are these large-scale investments in natural resources, and that's what Canada is very good at. We are very good at extracting this, and I think he is focused on that and trying to focus that on jobs and diversification of the Canadian economy. But the challenge, of course, remains is that there is a lot of criticism coming from the progressive left and the environmental groups about the impact that these projects could have.
Let's look ahead to the first ministers' meeting tomorrow. It is, of course, the first one since U.S. President Donald Trump canceled his trade talks with Canada. What do you think is in store for Carney and his Team Canada approach? Will he be hearing a lot about that?
Well, I think they've got to have a discussion to sort of renew the Team Canada focus on what they want to look at over the next little while. We've seen the Doug Ford anti-tariff ad. There has been lots of discussion by premiers about what they'd like, not just in the budget, but what they need help with from the federal government, getting back to those issues like cost of living and housing, but also these huge mega projects like the Ring of Fire in Ontario, like a pipeline deal in Alberta. So I think this gives first ministers a chance to have a little bit of a reset, a little talk behind closed doors about what Team Canada means going forward, and then how they're going to strategize, assuming the budget vote passes this week.
Okay, let's talk about that, because the budget vote is set for tomorrow. The Conservatives and Bloc have said they will vote against it. That leaves the NDP. So do you think the Liberals have done enough to get other parties on board here?
I think a week or so ago, I would have said yes, but I'm not sure now. Part of the reason is that the NDP might feel they have nothing to lose. They did very poorly in the last election. They might risk everything and see if they can get a little bit of a room here to expand the party in a snap surprise election. But I also think that the vast majority of Canadians don't want an election, and the Liberals might get Elizabeth May to come on board in supporting the budget or abstaining. So it's one or two votes, and sometimes these things are a surprise. It certainly was for Joe Clark in 1979. It might be for Carney again. I just don't think the appetite for another election is there, and that may be the risk that falls on kind of the NDP and the Greens here, in that no one wants to trigger another election right now. And so it may slip by, even with some abstentions. We'll have to see what happens in the next 48 or so hours. But really quickly, as you mentioned, we only have about 30 seconds left. There are so many ways that this can go. It could be very tight. Do you think we could be heading to another election, even if Canadians don't have an appetite for one? I think it probably depends on the NDP. And whether that group of 7 MPs really wants to take down the government when polling doesn't show them having much increase in the polls. They might say that they're preparing for an election or might be considering their options, but it would be a surprise if they did that. And I think it would be potentially damaging to the last of the NDP brand right now, when they need time to rebuild. They only have an interim leader. To call an election when their ducks really aren't in a row could be catastrophic to the NDP.
Jamie Gillies, thank you as always for your time and for your take on what we could see in the next few days.